let's jump into the practical part of this. Let's now create a first logo. In order to create a first logo, I already have a brand name that I'm going to be using for this course to help you understand how to create a logo rather. So there are a couple of ways for you to create a logo. You can come to the top here and simply type logo, or if you're on a For You page, you can see logo right here. If you don't find that right here, you can click on more, and then you can look through all this here until you find logo. But for me, since it's already included at the top of my screen here, I'm just going to click on create blank. Now the size is 500 by 500. If you're using a paid Canva, like if you're on a pro Canva, I'm going to recommend that you resize your file before you actually start designing. You resize your file into a custom size. So rather than 500 by 500, you can change it to maybe 5,000 by 5,000. What that does is, because you have a bigger work area, or because you have a bigger canvas, your logo can be as big as possible, such that even when it's scaled to a bigger size, your logo will still be able to retain very crisp, sharp quality. Now I'm going to click on continue, and it's going to ask that copy and resize. I'm going to say no, I want to simply resize this particular design. So I'm going to click on the resize, and you may not notice any change. All that probably just happened is, if you have your ruler turned on, you will see that now we have 5,000 up here. Now, in order to turn on the ruler, which is a very important part of design, is for you to come to settings up here and click on show margins, show rulers and guides, and you'll see all of that show up here. Now, what's the purpose of the rulers and guides? So that I show you, let me turn that off. You can see everything is turned off. The reason why it's important is so that you can use that to measure things between, especially when you're working on a logo, you need to be able to measure things so that you can have a little bit of consistency in your designs. And margins is basically the border that you find. So let's say you've worked with Microsoft Word before. A margin is the area where your text is not supposed to go outside of. Now I'm going to show margin here, and you're going to see this simple line here. Any important thing in your design needs to stay within this frame, while anything that belongs to the background needs to stay around this area. That's the most important thing you need to understand about margins. Now, our first logo is to be this name, and I'm going to paste it right here. So you can see I've pasted that. I'm simply going to drag that and make it big enough for our entire screen. Let me take my screen, let me move myself up here, and so that we can have a little bit of breathing space and about. So the name of the logo I'm going to be working on, this is going to be the first type of logo for you to work on, and we're going to call it a text-based logo style. So let me type it here. We are going to simply call it text-based logo. What that means is the entire logo I'm going to be working on in this particular file is going to be text-based, and this is going to be the name of the brand that we're going to be working on, Tamil Lanes Consulting. So I'm going to go ahead and delete everything that does not belong to that logo. I just need to put this here so that we understand that it's a personal brand and it's a consulting service. So I'm going to move this, and I'm going to add a page here, go back to that page, take this from this page and bring it down here. So this is just a blank page, just for us to have a little bit of breathing space. This is where you can write a note, put things that you're thinking about. So if I want to design here, if I want to design the logo here, so let me say, okay, what are the things that come to mind when you think of Tamil Lanes? Let's say you want to use what's a simple thing that comes to mind when you think of consulting or your personal brand consulting? Particularly, you want to answer the question of what's the business of your business? That is, what is an outcome people get from interacting with you? So let's say this person is selling clarity. This person is selling action. This person is selling, like I said, Tamil Lane is selling clarity and action. Those are the two things people want to get from. The question is, so clarity, action. So if it's for male, there's a way to approach a male design. If it's for female, there's also a way to approach a female design. In here, we are going to say female influencers. So let's say female influencers at the target market. what are the colors that this Camille wants to use. Let's say she wants to use, let's say pink and gray are the two colors she's chosen. How does she want to be perceived? Does she want to be perceived as a bold person, as a brave person, as a feminine person? So if you say brave and we match that with pink, then it begins to create a little bit of, okay, how do you use pink to communicate brave? How do you use gray to communicate brave? Those are some of the things that you think about when you are designing a logo for your business. You think about who are the audience, who am I, what kind of things matter to me, and what kind of things will matter to my customers, my target market. Now, based on all of this here, what kind of things can you use to create clarity? Can you use to create action? Can you use to create female influencers? Can appeal to female influencers? Now, this is the point where you now begin to think of, okay, what kind of shape communicates clarity? What kind of shape communicates action? A shape that communicates clarity and action will probably be maybe a light bulb. So let's put it here. So let's say here, let's put a light bulb. Action, a shape that communicates, that could be an arrow. So let's say that's what, but again, remember that we are working on a text-based logo. We are thinking all of this so that we know the kind of font, what kind of font will even appeal to some fonts. When you think about fonts, we can say, okay, a script kind of font. And with a script font, that will mean in bracket, maybe handwriting, maybe a sans font, that is no edgy serif, which means it has edges. By the way, those are the three types of fonts that exist: script, sans, serif. If you understand that, you will see that it becomes easier for you to create logos and all of that at any time. All right, now that we've ideated all of this, let's now start working on our logo. If we are going to add a shape, an arrow, a light bulb are two elements we can use. Pink, gray, brave, script, sans, those are fonts that we can use. Now, for this Tamil lanes, I'm actually going to use a serif with a script. So let's look for, now, in order to design the logo, what I will naturally do is I'll duplicate my text. Since I'm working on a text-based logo, I'm going to delete this. And for this, I'm going to delete just the first word. Purpose is so that I can have a bit of space to manipulate anything I want to do to my own liking. Since Canva may not let you do a lot of manipulation to text when they are all selected together, that's why I am separating them from each other. So Tamil lanes, Tamil here, let's look for font. Under font here, I can simply come here, a font that is jumping up in my mind right now. Let me see. Bright is the word. So let's see, bright. Great. That looks like an interesting font. Nope, all of these are not looking great. But this bright looks interesting. And let's use the same bright as our word. Let's see if this, okay. Interestingly, as you can see, I've not searched for another thing. I've only used the same keyword to find a, so this is lanes. Good. So do I want to use two types of fonts for the logo? That's the thing I want to ask myself, which brings me to another point. First of all, you want to create multiple variations before you can actually settle for one. So let's change this also to that bright. Let's use this as that bright. So Tamil lanes. Okay. And then let's use this as that other bright. Good. We can see now that using this here. Okay. So our font size here is, let's say 144, which is pretty small. So that's 694. Then we need to use the same size for this. So that's 694. Good. So both fonts are now the same size. Again, you remember when I mentioned rulers, this is where rulers become important. What you want to do with that is once you start zooming in so that you can see the details of your logo. So this is Tamil here, and I want to go here and I want to start adjusting the spacing. So you can use arrow up, down, arrow, you can use up, down arrows to space here so that you have a lot of finer control over that. So that's minus 16. And then I'm going to move this. Now I need to put this here so that I know this is where this ends. I need to also bring this here so that I know that this is where this ends. Now you can see automatically my font is already looking bigger than that. So I'm going to resize that area for this. By the way, remember that we are designing for a female market, a female target audience. So let's look at this here. And let's look at it right here. Okay, so we can use this as our bold font. And since all letters here are in small letters, we can use our base font as a capital letter. Now you can see again, if you want to keep it within the frame of this is why that ruler is important. So now we can use our spacing again to reduce the spacing between the text. Reduce the spacing between text. What happened? It gave us a little bit of spacing that we can also increase our text to. So we increase it again, we bring it here. All right. So if we zoom out and say, okay, this is Tammy Lanes Consulting. Does this look like the kind of logo you will be proud of? If yes, then it means you have your logo. If no, what can you add to this to make it a little bit more interesting? Remember we said arrow and light bulb the other time. This is where we can come to elements, search for, instead of searching actually, what if we actually draw a circle right here? What if we put a circle up here to make, and then hold down shift when you are resizing? Hold down your shift, just put this here. Now you can see what's happening here. This logo is beginning to take a completely new shape because we are now beginning to add just general everyday elements to that. And if I zoom out, you can see now it looks like, okay, great. This looks like an interesting logo. What if I make it start from, what if the T and the lanes start from the same path? And I come to this and I drag this here and I move it here and I say, okay, good. So now both my text are starting from the same and ending at the same points. So now if I zoom out, you can see Tammy Lanes Consulting.